And now, live from the studios of WHUC, this is Real Talk, where we get you something to talk about.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host, Jakobey Johnson, and today we've got a great guest this evening. Joining us is a Shockwallock native from Knoxville County, a man who made a name for himself as both receiver and quarterback during his high school career. He went to play college football at Jackson State University, where he was ranked third all-time in both receptions and yards. From there, he went on to play in the NFL, and now he is stepping into his new role as the head football coach for Hinds Eagles. Let's give him a warm round of applause to Coach Chris Jones. Thank you for joining us today, Coach.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate that. Appreciate you.
For those who may not know, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Born and raised, like I said, Sugar Lock, Mississippi. Big town in my mind. Like I said, it's a great place. But, you know, growing up, I was a country boy. We had horses, cows, garden. So I did all the stuff that, you know, this new generation kind of might be foreign to. But I'm appreciative of it. It made me who I am today. Just understanding hard work and understanding, you know, how to be resourceful. Like, we grew up, we didn't have a McDonald's, you know, we didn't have a whole bunch of stuff. But, you know, like I said, it just kind of built me and molded me, you know, just kind of to the person I am today. But I went to Knoxville County High School. I graduated from there. I played quarterback there also at the time. I also played some receiver, but pretty much played all sports, you know, where we from, and you play everything, you know, whatever season it's in, you know, that's what you play. Yep. So I just love the game. I love to compete.
Just an athlete. I
love it, you know. So I just think, to me, each sport builds you up for the next sport. So, like I said, whatever season was in, man, baseball season, we played baseball, you know, football, and we would do it in the yard. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, that's where you kind of hone your skills at. But, you know, that's kind of where I'm from. Married, got 2 kids. My kids are, my daughter's a senior, my son's in the 8th grade. So also, you know, it's just kind of been a pleasure too, just kind of watch them grow up and, you know, they're in the sports. Like I said, my daughter, you know, she wants to kind of sit in the same seat that you're in right now, as far as, you know, she want to be a journalist one day. She want to be on Sports Center one day. So
that's amazing.
I just think it's, you know, just kind of fun, just kind of watch and, you know, just see how she's evolved along the way. But just kind of it about me. Like I said, I went to Jackson State. I met my wife at Jackson State. So I've been in the area for a long time. Had a chance to, you know, when I was done playing, you know, it's kind of why I stayed, you know, in the off season. So I'm very familiar with, you know, just the Jackson metro area in general. And, you know, I'm excited to be at Hinds. I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Oh, yeah, that's good, Coach. Big country boy.
Yeah, big country boy, man. Tractors and all that good stuff. So,
oh, yeah. I understand that you received your Bachelor's of Arts in Criminal Justice from Jackson State and your Master's of Counseling and Psychology from the University of West Alabama. How exactly did you get into coaching?
Well, I got into coaching because I couldn't play anymore, to be honest with you, you know. So I had a cup of coffee in the NFL, so just kind of kept bouncing around, got cut a few times. I played in the NFL, CFL, arena football, and just kind of never stuck. Just kind of a journeyman, I guess you can say, so to speak. And
how do you say the name of that UFL team?
Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, man. Great place, but it was a long ways away from home, and I just kind of got tired of chasing that dream. And, you know, like I said, I was looking for what was next. And so I reached out to my, you know, my high school coach. And
you leave the game, but you never lose love for it.
No, and so that's my thing. You know, I always wanted to find something that I would enjoy doing when we're talking about work, because to me it's not even work. You know, I just happen to be, you know, I get paid to do something that I enjoy. Yep. But like I said, I reached out to him and, you know, Coach, I'm done playing, and, you know, just trying to figure out what was the next move. And just so happened at the time, he actually got a job at Harrison Central. Funny story. Got a job at Harrison Central. Yes, and you're familiar with it.
Yep.
But like 2 weeks later, the Louisville job came open. So that's where he's from. That's kind of our rival in Knoxville. So very familiar with Louisville. So I understood the program, you know, that and the tradition that they have there. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for me. So he asked me to come out there and just kind of join him. But that's how I started. But at the time, my plan wasn't to be a coach. So when I went to college, I didn't have my teaching certification, so to say, because I went to school and changed my major probably 3 times. Really, honestly, my main goal was I wanted to go to the NFL, right? But My dad being he was an administrator, superintendent, so he was big into academics, right? So he wanted to make sure to understand that the main thing was getting your degree, right? So
having that thing to fall back on.
100%, right? So
Sure.
I wanted to be physical therapist, changed that.
Yep.
I wanted to do business. I changed that real quick, and we had to go to class with suits on. That's not me, right?
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure I had something though. So thought about criminal justice. I got an uncle who lives in Atlanta, and he's big into the, I guess you can say, the police criminal justice field. And I always thought worst case scenario, if I needed to get a job, have something to hang my hat on as far as the criminal justice background. So I got my degree in that. And for the worst case, if everything didn't work out how I wanted to, I can go to Atlanta, maybe possibly work for my uncle, right?
Yep.
None of that happened, right? So the plan for me to coach wasn't the actual plan. It was, to me, honestly, God's plan. So not being able to play the game, but I still wanted to be around as much as I can and also have an impact on kids, right? So when that opportunity came and, me and my coach talked about it, to me it was kind of a no-brainer. But I wasn't certified, so I started out not making a whole bunch of money at all.
Yep.
But I wasn't really worried about the money because I've always just kind of been the type of person also, like, chase your passion and the money will come, right? And be good at what you do and somebody will pay you for it one day. So I really wasn't focusing on the money at the time. So I just really enjoyed the grind of getting up and coming to work and every day and looking forward to the end of the day where I got a chance to like really be me, right? Be out there with the kids with my cleats on, coaching them up. And I believe in showing, so I was able to show guys, instruct guys the way I thought it should be, as far as being able to not tell you how to run this route, show you how to run this route, right? So I thought it was always just cool for me to even just to still be able to like give back in that way, you know what I mean? And also understanding that you have to be relatable, right? So I wasn't too far removed from the game, and I was still just kind of a young person also, right? So being able to relate to the new generation at the time of student athletes, I thought I was able to just kind of be ahead of the curve when you're talking about just understanding the game, but also being relatable to kids and helping, just kind of get the best out of them in all walks of life. So, that's kind of how I got into it, and it was probably one of the best things to happen to me. But I left there and went to Kemper County after my third year, and I took over a place where they had never won a playoff game, right? So no success. So a place that a lot of people told me, man, you go there, you're going to kill your coaching career. Don't do it.
Like it's just going to be over.
It was going to be over, right? But hold on, this the kicker, though. So when I got the job, it wasn't actually my first time interview. When I first interviewed, I didn't get the job, right? So, but I guess it was also, once again, God's plan, like, not now. We're not ready yet, right? But went on to Kemper County, man. We built the program, man, who had never won a playoff game ever. I think when I took over, they were 1-10 or something to that nature. But my first year, we won 9 games, went to the second round of playoffs, and just kind of after that, man, we just, just build on success year after year after year, and we've never had a season where we lost, where we didn't win at least 10 games, man, and we were able to, go compete North State, South State. We won a state championship, and that's how I ended up,
That's amazing.
Evolving and moving on to Starkville High, a place, with great tradition, one of your premier programs in the nation, not just the state. So, and, went there and had a lot of success, man, and it was because of, the lessons that I learned as a kid growing up to combine with the lessons I learned, playing the game at a high level, also being coached at a high level, and being at a program, like I said, at Louisville, where football is important, where football matters, and understanding that football can change kids' lives, at the end of the day, is an avenue to help them see, okay, the stuff that I apply, you know what I mean? We're talking about, dedication, hard work, sacrifice, and all that good stuff that, we use as athletes. All that stuff is going to apply to your day-to-day life, right? So I just thought, it was a great opportunity, like I said, once again, just to have an impact on kids, man. And I've been blessed, and I think, the way to be blessed is to bless others, right? So just being able to be able to bless kids in many ways, it's been fun to me, it's important to me. And hopefully I can continue to, just kind of have that same path, here at Hinds.
That's good. Now I remember you saying that you have a son, right?
Yep.
He a little baller? He ball like that?
Football. He likes basketball. He doesn't love it. He loves football. 8th grade, I think he has a chance to be a good player one day, but he also has to understand what it takes to be a good player.
Yep.
When you're talking about, you just got to kind of outwork everybody. It's a competitive world out there. So,
It is.
but I think he have a chance one day. Good kid. I think he's going to one day, eventually,
keep working.
Keep working, man. I think he got a chance to be a ball player one day.
That's what's up. Taking on the head coach role at this stage of your career must feel like a huge transition. How does it feel to step into the leadership position, being that you are coming from a stellar career as a high school coach from over 12 years, leading the Starkville high school teams to multiple Mississippi high school activity associate state appearances and championships?
I think it's a challenge, but, I've always just kind of believe in, work for the job you want, not the job you have, but also understand being where your feet are. So say that to say I've always, from my days, even though I was at Kimber County, I wanted to run my high school program like a college program, right? So for many reasons, also to the kids who played for me, when you get signed and go to a collegiate program, you're going to understand what practice looks like. You understand what meets look like.
It's totally different.
It's a totally different mindset, right? But it's also, it prepares, like I said, the kid. It's not a culture shock when you get to a place, right?
Yep.
And then for me, I've always wanted to, go as far as I can go. I wanted to be a college coach. That was my plan. So I've always worked and had a plan and wanted to run my program no matter what level I was on and the model of a collegiate program, right? So I've always been the person to go visit and see what the schools are doing, on your FBS level, your FCS level, and mimic and mock, the same stuff that they do on the day-to-day because, hey, if it works for the New England Patriots, if it works for the University of Alabama, like, I would be a fool not to, mock what they're doing.
That.
Right, they're having success, right? So why not do what the successful people do? So I've always had that mindset of running my program like a collegiate program, right? So I'm going to take the same approach. Of course, it's slightly different, but you have to make an adjustment to wherever you are. But I'm going to run it, pretty much how I've always done it. It works so far. If it ain't broke, don't break it. But of course, you got to be flexible enough and adaptable enough to, okay, this ain't working. Let's try something different. But I feel good about it. And also, I think you're only successful as the people around you, right? So I got a great staff, great administrators. We're in the process of putting a great roster together. So it's a process. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. But one day at a time, we'll get there.
Yeah. And, Coach, I also know that you were named 2023 Coach of the Year in football by the Mississippi Association of Coaches. How was this achievement a pivot point in your coaching career?
Once again, that really, to me, it's an individual award, but it really wasn't about me. I had some guys, man, who was very instrumental in helping me receive that award. I mean, we had some really good players. We had some good coaches, and I've always just kind of studied different coaches and, their philosophies and all that good stuff. And I was a Florida State fan growing up, so I just always remember, one of the best programs, especially growing up, so. But I used to listen and, just kind of listen to Bobby Bowden, and he's always talked about, like, he was only as good as his staff. And when you go back and look at his staff, he had future head coaches and, like, guys who really made his job easy, right? So a part of being a head coach is also a part of building a great staff. Guys that you can trust who's going to be loyal, who's going to work their butt off and make sure that the main thing is, like, we're in it for the kids at the end of the day, right? So I've always had guys around me, who helped me get better. And I was also a guy who I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? I want some guys who are smarter than me to bring some of these great ideas to the table. Hey, Coach, we can do X, Y, Z. This will make the program better. This will make this kid better, right? So I'm not opposed to, listening to, guys that, I've hired to help me become, the person that I am, to help me have the success that I have, right? And I'm not, ashamed of saying, like, hey, if it wasn't for this coach or this player, like, I wouldn't be in this position today, right? So I've just been blessed, man. Like I said, God is good. And like I said, hopefully, man, we'll just continue to just take it one day at a time. And, my thing is, man, just win the day and, you'll get to where you're trying to get to.
Yep. We've been enjoying our conversation with Coach Jones, but we're going to take a quick break. Stick around because when we come back, we're driving into more about the Hinds football team. Stay tuned.
comes to different topics around the Hinds community, Real Talk is the answer.
The alumni who have graduated from the program.
A lot of that is them getting to know me.
This is the show that talks about lifestyle, culture, fashion, art, and having you in the know of what's going on across the Utica campus and the entire community college of Hinds. Be sure to watch Real Talk exclusively on Hinds' very own WHUC.
Welcome back. For those who are just now joining us, I am Jakobey Johnson, and today we are joined by Coach Chris Johnson, the new head coach for the Hinds. All right. Welcome back. For those who are just now joining us, I'm your host, Jakobey Johnson, and joining me today is Coach Chris Jones, the new head coach for the Hinds Eagles football team. All right, Coach. When you look at the Hinds Eagles program, what kind of culture are you hoping to build with these players?
My main thing is, making sure that kids leave here, as a better person. Just getting them ready for life. It's a tough world out there, and I think it has to be bigger than football. I think it has to be about, making sure that you're a good father, a good husband, a good coworker. It ain't just about football with me, right? So we want kids who are smart, tough, and disciplined in all walks of life. So that's kind of the culture we're trying to build. And I want kids they're good kids who just so happen to be good football players. Like there's a lot of good football players out there, man, but a lot of them, got a lot of baggage with them, and they're not a good fit for our culture, right? So we're just trying to make sure we build a great culture, for winning. And I think the culture of winning happens, way before you get on the football field. I think it's about the kids that you bring into your program, kids who want to be coached, kids who want to buy into just trusting the process of what it takes to be great. And when I say great, I mean great. I don't want, average. I want you to strive to be, the best. And if I fall short, at least I gave it my all, and I got probably farther than a lot of people would have, right? Because I strive for greatness, and I wanted to be a little bit better than average, right? You got to go a little bit further and do a little bit more and strive a little bit harder, right?
100%,
100%, yeah, 100, right? I said it can't even be 100%. It got to be more than 100%, right?
Yeah.
Because what's going to separate you, right? If me and you go to practice and we practice 2 hours and I leave after 2 hours and you stay an extra hour, you probably gonna get a little bit better than me, right? So we want guys to understand the value of hard work and what it takes, and like I said, the process of being great. But like I said, I'm looking forward to, man, just helping these kids grow. And I also want my guys to get re-recruited, right? So my vision is to help kids get re-recruited. The goal ain't to come to junior college and stay, right? The goal is to come and get out, right? So we want to make sure that kids are able to get out early, honestly, right? Because I feel like, when you're talking about being recruited in these days, if you can leave in December, that helps your process as far as, being able to have a chance to be successful, because I'm going to get there early. I'm going to get there in January, so I get a chance to go through the spring. I get a chance to go through the summer, so it gives me a better chance. So come football season, I'm more prepared, understanding how college works. I'm more prepared, understanding how football works, right? So it just gives me a better chance to adapt and be ready for what's next, right, once the season starts, versus getting there in August and, oh, man, I got to get prepared to play. I'm not ready, right? So I want to make sure these kids have every chance to be successful, and I think it can happen by graduating early, so you can get signed early, so you can get there ahead of time and understand the system and give you a better chance, like I said, to be successful.
Yep. What strategies or techniques do you think was beneficial in your high school coaching journey that can roll over to your college coaching?
I think the main thing is, honestly, just being transparent with kids and being honest with them. Kids can tell what's real and what's fake.
Yep.
And also, being relatable. And also, once again, I keep saying this, but not just making it about football. I think it's a different, vibe when you, as a player, know that your coach care about.
You got that type of connection.
Yeah, coach care about, did I eat? Even if you're having girlfriend problems, I can go talk to coach. It got to be bigger than that, because at the end of the day, when you have that type of relationship, that type of bond, like those kids will run through a wall for you.
Unbreakable bond.
Yeah, like, and they don't care about like what you know. They want to know if you care.
Yep.
Like, so that's the thing. We just want to make sure that kids understand that we're there for them as a person, not just when football's over, we're done. I want to be able to have that relationship where you get your first job, you call me.
Yep.
Where you have your first child, you call me. Where you purchase your first car, you call me, right? Because once again, we have a bond that's way beyond football. And like that's what it's about. Like you play ball, right? So the game only lasts a certain amount of minutes,
so
right?
long.
All right. So when that's over with, what's next, right? This is a whole world, that I have to make sure that I'm able to attack and handle. And sometimes I can as a player. So that's why I need to go. Hey, coach, you mind if I can talk to you for a second? And it ain't even about sports, right? It's about like I had a bad day, right? So you just want to make sure you're able to have those relationships and just kind of be transparent and honest with people. And know, like, all right, man, coach really care about me. So
just keeping it real.
That's what we want to have. Yeah.
All right, coach, let's talk a bit about your vision on the field. What kind of playing style or system can fans expect to see from your team this season?
The first thing, man, we got to be physical. Like this ain't a game that you play flag. This ain't flag football. This ain't two-hand touch, man. We want to be physical in all phases. Offense, defense, special teams. We want to be physical at every position.
Yep.
I think, throughout the course of time, if you watch football, at the end of the day, even basketball, like the most physical team
wins.
Yeah. Like, just to be honest, the most physical team wins, right? So that's first and foremost. And our style of play, man, we want to be aggressive, right? We want to put pressure on offenses. We want to put pressure on defense. We want to put pressure on special teams. So we want to also have fun. At the end of the day, man, this is the same game that we played growing up that we looked forward to when we was in elementary school, going to recess, looking forward to getting outside and competing and laughing and having fun. So that's how the game should look come game day. Of course, practice not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy, right? But the culture that we're trying to have and the mindset that we're trying to have is to be fast, physical, and aggressive in all phases, and just kind of also understand that your roster changes from year to year. All right, so you got to be flexible enough in your system to make sure it fits the kids and not make sure it fits and caters to me.
Yep.
I think that's what good coaches do. They're able to adapt to, what's on the roster and flexible enough to kind of change from year to year. But your philosophy of how the game should be played, it should never change, right? So we want to be, physical. We want to be fast. We want to be smart. Like I said, smart, tough, discipline, all the little things, and it's not necessarily about scheme. It's about doing it right, technique-wise, and being fundamentally sound and all that good stuff. So when somebody watches film and they click on TV, man, I want people to say, you know what, man, that's a well-coached football team.
Yep. All right. What's the first thing you wanted your players to understand about you as a leader?
I think the main thing as a leader, you got to have that mindset of. My mindset is you got to work so hard that they can't tell the difference between the general and the soldier, right? So I can't tell them to do X, Y, Z if I'm not doing X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? I think that's what true leaders do. Yeah. And I think that true leaders, they make everybody around them better. Like if you go back and look at the history of time of some of your what I would like to say great leaders, like your Tom Brady. Like wherever Tom Brady went, Tom Brady teammates got better.
Lead by example.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, like his teammates got better because Mike's here.
Yep.
I think that's what good, leaders do. And, good leaders are also good followers, at the end of the day, right? So my vision, as a leader has the same vision of, Dr. Vasek, our president, right? So everybody has to be on the same page, when you're talking about, leadership and being successful and all that good stuff. You also got to be compassionate and understanding as a leader too that, stuff is going to be different sometime and people are going to feel a certain way some days. You got to know how to approach this person and talk to this person. And some days I can't have a conversation with him because it's a bad day for him. So let's just wait till tomorrow, right? So you just got to understand, the room and the culture that you're dealing with as a leader, But at the end of the day, like I also think like as a leader, your standard got to be your standard, especially on certain stuff, right? You got to coach the superstar just as hard as you coach the third or fourth string guy, right? Right, the standard is the standard, right? Nobody's bigger than the program, at the end of the day, right? So I got many philosophies of being a leader, but to me, I guess you can say the main thing is I work so hard as a leader that they can't tell who's the general and who's the soldier, right? I can't be over here sitting on my butt and being a supervisor telling you to do X, Y, Z when I can very well have picked up that trash or whatever myself, right? If they see the leader doing it, oh man, I can pick that trash up too, right?
Yep.
So I believe in just being a great leader has to be done by just setting an example on a day-to-day.
For sure. After your NFL career, did you always know you transitioned into coaching, or was that something that came on later?
Something that came on later. Like I say, my goal wasn't to coach, but then when I look back on it, I was always kind of a coach. Even when I played football, even when I played basketball, I was a point guard. I was the coach on the court, right?
Yeah.
Football, I was the coach on the field.
Yeah,
and I was
quarterback.
Yeah, I always spent extra time watching and preparing as if I was a coach. I was always, just kind of being instructive and motivating others. Hey man, let's start to practice and get some extra work. Like,
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of, you looking back on it, that guy has coaching characteristics, right? So that wasn't the plan, but it was God's plan once again, and he just kind of steered me in that direction of coaching, man. And I'm happy it happened because I enjoy going to work every day. Yeah. I really do. It don't matter to me if it's a 4:30, 5:30 workout, and this is fun for me. I enjoy it, right?
Job, yeah.
I don't dread coming to work every day,
Most
right?
people dread that.
Yeah, I want to, just be able to enjoy your day. Me and my wife, we kind of talk a lot about I need to find a hobby, or you need to take a vacation, or she loves to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need a break from your job. I don't need a break from my job. I enjoy coming to work. I love my job, just being real with you. So I get just as much peace as, coming to work every day as some may get to traveling and going to Cancun. I enjoy this. Like, I don't have to do Cancun. I see y'all when y'all get back.
Ball is life.
Today. Yeah, I love it, just being real with you.
Yep. So what can we expect from Hinds Eagles football team this year? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the past, and I'm saying that to say, like, when I grew up, Hinds was the premier football program in the state of Mississippi when you're talking about junior college football. So it can be done again, right? And I know, that history, repeats itself, right? So I'm excited about the future because of the fact that it's been done before. So I think, Coach Williams, I thought he did a good job when he was here. The cover's not bare. We still got a lot of pieces here. And even before him, Coach Murphy, he's a legend, right? So I got some big shoes to fill, but, the expectations here are great. But I believe in, good pressure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's what you want to be at a place that expects you to win, that wants to win, that enjoy winning. That's what makes it fun. We don't do all this for nothing. You don't run all those sprints to have the mindset of we're going to lose. Like, in your mind, I'm doing this for the goal in the end. The goal in the end is to win. Yeah, so, that's my mindset on it. But I'm looking forward to, just the challenge of, Hinds being great again. Like I said, I think we got the pieces in place. We just got to put the puzzle, the piece of the puzzle in the right spot, and we will. Like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're in the process now of doing spring ball and just kind of evaluating and working on just trying to figure out what our strengths, what's our weaknesses, how can we get better at our strengths, and how can we fix our weaknesses, right? So right now, man, like I said, it's just a process of building a program that I'm enjoying also, because you can't get too far ahead, but you also have to begin with the end in mind, and the end is to win the championship. So, but with that in mind, I have to have that mindset every day.
Yep.
We got to think win championship at practice, like by finishing, practicing hard, being physical.
Practice hard, play hard.
Yeah, 100%. And, practice with a purpose. Have energy, great effort. Like, we ain't coaching effort. Like, effort's on you. So that's just kind of, my mindset right now, and, just focusing on making sure that we have a good summer so we can have a chance to have a good fall, So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to it too, Coach.
It's going to be fun.
I'd like to thank Coach Jones for taking the time out of his busy day and informing us about his new position here at Hinds and his vision for the Eagles football. We wish Coach the best in his upcoming season, and we know the Eagles will soar high. Remember to like us on Facebook at Radio and Television Production and subscribe to us on YouTube channel. To keep up to date on all stories surrounding Hinds, you're watching Real Talk. Until next time.